Anyway, this is Ethan Klein of the Rise of Liberal Islamophobia.
Figure out this stuff. Like, this was happening for a few months, and now it doesn't really happen so much. And I don't even know how, but they have like their secret ways.
אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם, ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
When you talk about privilege, let's talk about someone who's going to UC Berkeley, paid by their parents $200,000 tuition, on campus protesting Israel. Do you find that ironic?
I personally think it's so ironic. It's just like, I don't know, it's kids sitting here in like beautiful California criticizing, like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
What we're seeing now at Columbia, and I don't use this word lightly, we're not seeing ideological war. We're not seeing support for terrorism. We are seeing terrorism.
When I grew up, I couldn't really take a bus. I was afraid of blowing up.
Right.
And now it doesn't really happen. So the wall did help. So should we not have a wall?
Since the events of October 7 and the ongoing disproportionate retaliation by the Israeli state, both Islamophobia as well as anti-Semitism have been on the rise in the United States.
And the Palestinians are taught to kill us at 2 years old!
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
Man,
I don't understand why left-leaning media, which is mostly Jewish, are calling people white supremacists, dude.
Jewish. Did you just say that?
Yeah, I just don't understand.
Left-wing media is mostly Jewish?
In order for Israel to maintain their system of apartheid and to justify their inhumane actions in Gaza, Islamophobia is quite obviously ingrained in Israeli society and Israeli politics. However, by associating itself and its actions with the religion of Judaism, falsely claiming to be acting on the wishes of the Jewish diaspora, Israel, ironically, is also perpetuating anti-Semitism. And that is 100% by design.
They are vehemently against not only Israel, not only the Jewish students. Anti-Semitism is unquestionably a problem at the universities, but it goes significantly beyond that. These are protesters who are being influenced by outside organizations. The Islamic Republic of Iran is thanking them for their work. They are giving permission to these terrorists.
Overnight, the U.S. House passed a bill 322-91, and a group of representatives say they want to protect their Jewish constituents. And the bill would essentially make it easier for the Department of Education to enforce anti-discrimination laws at public institutions.
So this bill would require the Department of Education to use the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor.
Anti-Semitism is an ancient form of bigotry, but since the creation of Israel for the past 80 years or so, it's been used as a tool for the growth and continuation of Israel's existence. And no, this isn't some conspiracy theory. Israel quite obviously wants more anti-Semitism in the world in order to justify its Zionist project. And by continuing their atrocious actions in Gaza and the West Bank, while wearing symbols representative of Judaism and claiming to be acting on the basis of Judaism, they guarantee the continuation, if not escalation, of global anti-Semitism.
The anti-Semitic decision of the International Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former defense minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state.
Sleek and stylish in this wool blend, Najiba is hot, hot, hot. It's a look that screams, look out world, I'm a woman of the 12th century.
Islamophobia is also an ancient form of bigotry, and although its existence in the United States was prominent before, Islamophobia's use as a tool for manufactured consent reached its cultural climax more recently, specifically after 9/11.
You're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing, that if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people, and that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this?
It's gross. It's racist.
We have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want.
Dude, Sam Harris is so funny. Look at this tweet. The problem of anti-Semitism in Europe is mostly coming from the Muslim community and the far left. It's still a fringe phenomenon in the US, though that could change. And it's so funny because this is like the European style. He's doing the European method. That is delusional, dog. These are the people that did the Holocaust. And you're like, yeah, the people who are direct descendants of those who carried out the atrocities of the Holocaust have no nascent, unexamined anti-Semitic tendencies whatsoever. It's actually the Muslims that are importing anti-Semitism to these countries. It's also ridiculous to say it's a fringe phenomenon in the US. There's a lot of unexamined anti-Semitism in the US as well.
It's gross. It's racist.
We have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
9/11 was a major turning point in the United States. The 90s were almost seen as the end of America's global fight against evil. The USSR was far behind us, and the United States didn't have a major adversary that they could villainize for their own self-interest. So in August of 2001, when George Bush was briefed by the CIA about credible threats of plane hijackings, it was the perfect opportunity for manufacturing consent. And that opportunity became reality on September 11th.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
For the next 2 decades and counting, the United States would use this day to not only justify their actions in Iraq, but to justify any sort of potential war crimes inflicted on an Arab or Muslim population.
The 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, an organization headed by Osama bin Laden, which had openly declared war on the United States and was committed to killing innocents in our country and around the globe. And so we went to war against Al-Qaeda to protect our citizens, our friends, and our allies.
And 9/11 was only the catalyst. Growing up in the United States post 9/11, I was surrounded by subtle yet quite obvious in retrospect anti-Arab propaganda. 2013 saw the release of World War Z, a zombie apocalypse movie, where at the movie's climax, we see a mob of zombies scaling the walls surrounding Jerusalem and attacking the civilians taking refuge. And who's on the other side of that wall in real life? Palestinians. This movie literally illustrates Palestinians as blood-hungry zombies. 2014 saw the release of American Sniper, a film following U.S. Navy SEAL Chris Kyle and his deployment in Iraq and then New Orleans.
He then later said that when he got back home, that he was on top of the Superdome and he
Dude, that's like, dude, Chris Kyle. Oh my God, Kyle. Oh my God. Oh my God, he's such a racist, lying piece of dude. %100 annem mi aldı? Emin misin? Annemin aldığına eminsin. Sordun mu? Sipariş ettin. My dad has ordered the fattest cannolis I've ever seen. After I told him, please don't buy any more desserts and treats. I keep eating them. I can't stop myself. Okay? Yeah. Chris Kyle is a liar, a fraud, a racist. He's just an awful dude.
Shot over 30.
And the irony is the one time he was trying to do right by his fellow veterans, he got killed by a fellow veteran who he was trying to help with his PTSD. The irony is the one time he was trying to not be a asshole and try to help out a fellow veteran, he killed him. It just popped him when they went to the gun range together. It's nutty.
Looters during Hurricane Katrina.
I mean, maybe it wasn't the best idea to take a PTSD-riddled veteran to the gun range, but I'm just saying, his intentions seemingly were good in that instance.
What a preposterous lie. How stupid are you if you believe that?
Throughout the film, he's seen as both a hero of America's freedom, as well as a victim of our own actions, almost making it seem like we had to be in Iraq, but it was still a sad situation. God, I love neoliberalism. And what was happening during the release of this movie? The United States was propping up and funding rebel groups in the Syrian civil war to overthrow President Bashar al-Assad. And whoops, we just created ISIS. We also grew up with master works like Captain Phillips, where Somali pirates are given zero humanization or explanation for why they're hijacking ships, the only explanation being they're just a bunch of crazy Arabs. Or the beautifully innocent movies of Sacha Baron Cohen, a British man who's made an entire career off of perpetuating dehumanizing anti-Arab stereotypes.
In my country, we have KFC. Kazakh fried cat.
These associations in our media create an anti-Arab bias in the minds of its audience. But where those biases are confirmed is when these victims of American imperialism reach a point of retaliation, like the events of October 7th.
Today, the people of Israel are under attack. In this moment of tragedy, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere, the United States stands with Israel. I got up this morning and started this at 7:30, 8 o'clock, my calls. Hamas terrorists crossing in Israel, killing not only Israeli soldiers, but Israeli civilians. Entire families taken hostage by Hamas. Just days after Israel marked the holiest of days in the Jewish calendar. It's unconscionable.
For the past year, ever since October 7, 2023, Islamophobia has seen a resurgence in American media. Palestinians are described as terrorists who have a hidden desire to unalive Jewish people from a young age.
Rudy was saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
mean,
Like Kamala.
The other one.
I could add it.
And those who support the people of Palestine are labeled anti-Semites or even terrorists themselves.
What we're seeing now at Columbia, and I don't use this word lightly, we're not seeing ideological war. We're not seeing support for terrorism. We are seeing terrorism.
And what it was literally a vigil for terrorists. Now, I was on the University of Washington campus last week when they had this big rally.
Not my shy Davide.
This big march for Hamas, when they were literally chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and they mean free of Jews. They want all Jews out of the land. I had people literally tell me to my face that they were celebrating the fact that babies had their heads cut off.
There's nobody on the entire platform to call him out. Nobody. They've all been banned. Nobody. There's not a single dissenting voice with his straight up radical, anti-American, anti-Semitic, pro-China, pro-Russia, pro-terrorism takes. This is fringe, psychotic shit that is not normal.
Anti-Semitism, however, has also been on the rise since October 7th, thanks to Israel's undying ability to associate its war crimes with the religion of Judaism. A religion, by the way, that is fundamentally built on peace and the idea of loving thy neighbor as thyself.
My Jewish values teach me to oppose apartheid.
Now, the reason I've...
Yeah, that was Ethan talking about me, saying that I have radical fringe, pro-Russia, pro-China, anti-American views that must be eliminated. Or, at the very least, why are there no brave voices to address and criticize?
Decided to make this video is not simply to analyze the growth of both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. The way politics is today, political analysis becomes significantly more interesting and easier to understand when discussed in the context of internet drama. In fact, this OG YouTuber has built an empire, a dying empire, off of internet drama. This OG YouTuber, famous for his appearances in blackface, brownface, whiteface, and poopface, has more recently become famous for spewing, on the daily, both Islamophobic and anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Fresh criticism for Hasan, who is an outright supporter of terrorism, quite literally. He is a champion for terrorism and a supporter of terrorism. And if you don't believe me, watch the video.
Now, there's a lot of
If you stand up against it, go on debates, just team tag you and call you anti-Semitic again. What? Yeah. As you guys know, I'm a big fan. Do you sometimes feel like we're feeding into Hasbro and making it more effective by addressing every single point over and over and over and over again? No. I think it's worthy. There are moments where it's like silly to do that. And then there are moments where you need to make sure that people understand. There are moments where you need to make sure that people understand where you stand. Especially because there are obviously, like, there are people who say anti-Israel shit, and they do that to launder anti-Semitic narratives. There's an Arabic phrase that means repetition teaches the donkey. It seems anti-Semitic. Just because you said it's an Arabic phrase, which automatically means it must be anti-Semitic. It's silly to continuously condemn Hamas every time. It's not silly to break down Hasbro lies. Yeah, for sure. I also don't want to I want to weed out people who get duped, or rather believe the people who just like will cynically sneak and launder anti-Semitic messages into criticisms of the state of Israel. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that people understand that there's no space for that. Now, a lot of dumbasses will also cynically say, oh, he's doing this to hide from all of the attacks. Okay? He's doing this, except I've been doing this for years and years and years prior, because it's something that I do believe. Like, I don't think that there's any space for anti-Semitism, nor is there any space for Islamophobia.
Details I could get into regarding Ethan's racist crash out, but I'll save that for a future video. What I really want to focus on today is this tweet, and the context of this tweet by Hasan Piker.
My former podcast co-host misunderstood me when I said in America that anti-Semitism is institutionally unacceptable, but Islamophobia is permitted if not encouraged. Yesterday, he proved my point.
Ethan has a long history of Islamophobia, stretching all the way back to his time in Israel. Go figure. Like when Ethan and Hila visited an Arab village, and Ethan was afraid of the call to prayer.
Hila, are you sure we're going the right way? Hila, are we going the right way?
I'm hoping so.
Yeah, no. I don't know, we just need to find the water.
You know what they say? Follow the Allah Akbars.
Or when Ethan said Arab Muslims have an inclination towards committing acts of violence.
I do, on the other hand, acknowledge that, like, I think per capita, a lot of the weird terrorism and crimes and I mean, there's definitely some strong thread of violence through the Muslim community. Yeah. Or Arab Muslims, to be more specific.
Or when Hila said the wall between Israel and the West Bank had to be built and was proven effective.
They built a wall, and Israel should be a one state with Palestinians and Israel's all living together. They should reduce the borders and remove the gate. That to me seems like super ignorant.
It is, because when I grew up, I couldn't really take a bus. I was afraid of blowing up.
Right.
And now it doesn't really happen. So the wall did help. There's still a lot of other ways. There's tunnels and, you know.
Yeah. Rockets.
Yeah.
When Hila was a kid.
It's just, it's a epigenetic. It's just like genetically predetermined that if you're Arab, you hate Jewish people and you want to kill them. It's just how it is. That's why we need a wall. Yeah. It's just natural. I want people to understand that, like, reasonable people or good people can also be duped by these narratives as well. Okay? Especially because there has never been a fascist movement throughout history that hasn't justified its fascist nature by creating a healthy dose of propaganda and laundering it over and over and over again. It's not like, while we all understand what the Nazis did were horrifying, right? Like, they also spent a good deal of time early on laundering anti-Semitic sentiment in order to justify what was to come later down the line. It's not like they were just like, we want to do the Holocaust because we're evil. Okay. They didn't say that. They didn't just like magically one day decide like, let's just put all the Jewish people in concentration camps and kill them because we're bad guys. And then that's how they communicated that to the public. And then the public was like, well, we're also evil too. Thank God. I love doing evil. Like, it's not how that goes. Okay. It's not like Jim Crow or the apartheid in South Africa was presented to the population as, we just actually want to do bad things. We want to do bad things to black people. No, it was a century of justification for chattel slavery that was repackaged throughout time as society evolved. And every step of the way, those who wanted to reinstate the racial pecking order would make arguments over and over again to justify why this must exist, why Jim Crow must exist, why apartheid must exist. That's it. And I don't think people understand that. Like, when they have this like unexamined, resilient, Islamophobic attitudes that they've grown up believing, that they've been socially conditioned into taking as truth, and they hear something like that, they go, yeah, that tracks. This argument tracks. The self-defense argument is something that I can understand. That's why Israel, even to this day, will always bring forth the self-defense narratives. The expansion of the Golan Heights, which is annexed Syrian territory that the Trump administration acknowledged as permanent Israeli territory in direct contravention of international law. There is now a further expansion of the Golan Heights, according to the Israeli government. The reason why, what is this? Ethan Klein H3, 68 videos. What does this have to do with anything? Using check your privilege to excuse away fascist policy is a super crazy spin. Like, yeah, it's easy for you to call for civil rights for black people from a cushy big city university. We're fighting them daily. Yeah. Huh? What is this person saying?
There's a lot of weird ass
motherfuckers in the
Israel
chat
that
today.
blocked out the West Bank and Gaza. And it was like, I remember in the newspaper when you were growing up, almost daily, right?
Not
Suicide
daily,
bombs
but it was
weekly
happening a lot, and it was terrifying. Yeah.
in cafes, shopping malls, and buses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a slaughter. It was just a slaughter. And so they're like, oh, we'll spill the all then. And lo and behold,
Ethan has less followers than you. Dude, what are you talking about? Ethan has one of the largest YouTube accounts out there. Ethan is OG YouTuber. He has multiple YouTube properties that are significantly larger than myself, including the H3H3 podcast. The H3H3 podcast is significantly larger than any property I have on YouTube. It's got 2.79 million subs. Their video numbers, I mean, their analytics don't look as great now as they once did, but they're still fairly popular.
no more suicide bombs. And my whole time there.
Also, it doesn't even matter. Nick Fuentes has way less motion than myself, but I still see him as a serious threat. It's so weird. Like, just because someone is like far less consequential doesn't change. Like, if they're saying something, if they're trying to normalize certain ways of thinking.
My whole 5 years living there, there was one failed attempt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the list goes on.
You told me once you went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city.
But these clips are all quite old, and for a while there, Ethan was able to hide any of his own Islamophobia. Yet when October 7 took place, Ethan Klein's Islamophobic tendencies came to the forefront.
I find it incredible that people think that Hamas is going to take over all of Israel and happily coexist with Israelis. If there's a state of Palestine, it makes sense. But if you're in one state, all that's going to happen is like everybody is trying to bring as many people there as possible. And like by the time...
What do you mean everybody? Does he mean Palestinians? Yeah, how terrifying. Palestinians have been purposely cast out from their homeland. Will want to come back. Like, we cannot coexist with them. It's terrifying. Like, this right here is this is it. This is just like, it is considered appropriate to be able to say these things. If you were to say this about black people, like, everyone would understand what the you're talking about. Say it about Arabs, though. Say it about Palestinians, and everyone's like, well, maybe he has a point. And the worst part about it is that, like, Ethan himself does not give a shit. I know he, at least when I talked to him, I don't think he gave a shit about the demographic concerns of the state of Israel. Why the should he care? He's from California. Like, ridiculous, right? And it feels like this is a relaundering of a certain point of propaganda that has worked on him as well. Do you understand?
Frankly, are a lot of Palestinians, right, in the area. And once the Palestinians outnumber the Jews, basically...
Like, this is just great replacement. You understand that, right? I'm sure Ethan would understand that. When people say this in America, that's why I always point out, we here in the United States of America, the royal we, have demographic concerns. But when someone says that to you in the United States of America, virtually everybody understands what the fuck is going on. Okay? Especially those who are well-read, or especially those who are at least somewhat liberal-minded, very quickly understand when a person says, we have demographic concerns in the United States of America. What does that mean? Ne? Dış kapı açık. Kimse yok ama dışarı. Başka bir şeyler daha mı order ettin? Kafayı yiyeceğim ama. They keep ordering food. That sounds like what why racist people would say pre-desegregation. No, that's exactly what it is. Demographic concerns by the demographic in-group is inherently a racist concept. It has historically always been at the forefront of fascist ideology. People say that now, though, too. What do y'all mean? No, I know. And we always know what that means when people say that, don't we? I know what that means. You know what that means. Okay? Yeah, exactly. The people that say white people are losing the majority argument from like 2 years ago is a racist ass argument. Everybody here understands that. That is a racist ass argument. The question always is, what are you talking about? So what if there aren't a majority of white people? What is whiteness? What is the solution to that? It's a Nazi argument that is portrayed as a defensive posture, as though there is a valid claim here that America must be a white nation. Why? What does that even mean? What do you mean when you say it must be a white nation? Who is supposed to be white? Who is considered white? Throughout history, if you go back far enough in time, you will get back all the way to Benjamin Franklin, who considered Germans to be swarthy and not white. Only wasps were considered white. Whiteness as a concept has evolved throughout time. And in many instances, it has nothing to do with just the color of your skin. After all, many people don't consider me white, even though I say I'm white all the time. I am white. I look white. I'm pale as and yet people say, Hasan, you're not white. How could you be white? You're Muslim. Your name is Hasan. And a big chunk of why people are no longer, are no longer as white as they once were is because miscegenation is no longer illegal. So what are you going to do? Are you going to make it so that it's illegal to race mix? It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's continue.
Anything is fair game for the Jews. Anything. Oh, it's going to be a secular country? You mean Hamas, the Islamic fundamentalist group?
Wait, I don't understand. No one is saying that Israel needs to be a Islamic caliphate. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, no, when people say it must be a secular country, that's what they mean. It's not like a secret way of, I haven't seen this video. What the is that? I don't even know where this is from, but this is a ridiculous video. Yeah, no, secular means secular. As in, people can practice religion in the safety of their own homes. But it doesn't mean that they can use religious doctrine to dictate what people can and can't do. I'm fairly certain that Ethan would agree with that, especially when it's fundamentalists of a Jewish nature, like the Itamar Ben-Gvirs of the world, that get to dictate what happens in Israel, that dominate the lives of secular Jews in Israel.
Is it going to come out and do a secular country? What the are you talking about? I feel like people are so deluded. They'll look at something like from the river to the sea and be like, oh no, that doesn't mean that they want to, they just want to create a secular state and peacefully live with Israelis. By the way, segregation is not real. There's 20% of the population in Israel is Palestinian, full citizens, integrated in all levels of work.
I'm beginning to realize that I just didn't see a lot of Ethan's commentary after the leftovers fallout, which led me to assume that he wasn't doing straightforward pro-Israel propaganda. Because this right here is just straight up Hasbara. Oh, there's Palestinian citizens of Israel. 20% of society, 20%. I'm sure it'll be funny if he mentions the Arab Supreme Court. The Arab Supreme Court justice was the one who actually threw the former Israeli prime minister in prison. I've heard it a million times over. Ridiculous. And you banned us for calling that out? Yeah, I did. You want to know why? Because at the time, I was more focused on covering things that actually mattered rather than getting myself involved with my former podcast co-host. And I stand by that decision to this day. I know this is petty, but the similarities are... Okay, dude, stop. He would literally talk about how he believes in apartheid state, but then would go away and say shit like this. He's so insincere. I think the problem here is that he took advantage of a lot of your charitability and still enjoys the benefits of you believing he might understand what's wrong. He's fooled a lot of us. He does use the Supreme Justice talking point.
And over time, he played victim, claiming that people calling him a Zionist are being anti-Semitic. Ironically, an anti-Semitic statement in and of itself. But I'll get to that in a bit.
That's my problem, is that people, they're watching with the expectation, they're looking for any...
I think his past open criticism of Israel and advocacy for Palestinians carries so much weight until October 7. Yeah, it carried a lot of weight for me too. Don't double down. You didn't do research about your co-host. Take the L and move on. Token Yemeni. Yeah, my bad, dude. I should have spent a what did Ethan say hour every day instead of covering the slaughtered children that Israel was killing at the time. You're right. My bad. Sub for years, I was fooled too by him. Yeah, that's what I should have done. I should have centered the conversation around like petty drama between me and my podcast co-host so that like all these other parasitic drama farmers could like attach themselves to that conversation as well. You know, make money for everybody and every single day not talk about issues that actually mattered, you know? And you're doing it right now, dude. You're the one claiming he was a friend. At least admit to it and say you're sorry. Aw. Does it hurt your feelings? Does it hurt your feelings that I didn't know the full scope of his commentary? Oh, I'm sorry. Talk to me when he spends, I don't know, a month and a half actively trying to get you deplatformed, okay? Are you the real victim here? Are you the real victim here, chatter? Do you feel so, are your feelings hurt? Are your feelings hurt that I covered genocide instead of whatever the Ethan was talking about? My bad. Well, you banned people for calling him out before? Yeah, I did, because it was irrelevant at the time. And I was right to do so, and I still stand by that, okay? I'm so sorry that your feelings were hurt. Yeah. Do you not hear what I'm saying? Do you not hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? At the time, covering Ethan would have been irrelevant, regardless of whatever kind of Hasbara that he was churning out. That's what I'm saying. Would you rather have me cover your personal anger and resentment that you had, the personal frustrations that you had with a podcast host that you had a parasocial relationship with, or cover the act of genocide that was ongoing? Oh my God, there's another. Okay, this is out of control. Baba! Bir tane daha geldi. They ordered even more people. You say you don't care about drama shit while covering more important stuff like open genocide. Chatter still sent links after that and got the hammer. It's their fault, not yours. Yes, exactly. Anyway.
Little nugget to get in, indignant over and to call me a Zionist. If you call me a Zionist, you're anti-Semite. You know why? Because I'm not a Zionist, and I've made that exactly profoundly, deeply clear. So when you see someone on Twitter, when you see someone in the audience calling me a Zionist, what they're calling me is a Jew.
And this whole Zionism thing is just so up. It's basically a purity test on Jews. You got to be, are you a good Jew or a bad Jew?
It's so crazy because like there are hella Jewish people, many of which I collaborate with, many Jewish people that are on this platform that simply don't agree with Ethan. And yeah, if someone is an anti-Zionist, actually, okay, and Jewish, and then someone turns around and goes, oh, you're a Zionist, okay, yeah, I would assume that person is anti-Semitic. But it seems like Ethan has given enough. It seems that Ethan has given enough information to people who are passing by or people who are actively tuned into his podcast, like large chunks of his progressive fan base that don't agree with him on this issue and have made up their own conclusions. Segregation is not real, y'all. The Palestinians' land day does not commemorate the Nakba or 67. Is 1976 during Yitzhak Rabin's first government. 20,000 dunams of land were expropriated from Palestinian citizens in Saknin to build Jewish towns. As a part of the Judaization of the Galilee, the Palestinian protested with a general strike. The military shot and killed 6 unarmed protesters since The 1948 over 700 Jewish towns have been built on Israel, 0 for Palestinian citizens. Yeah, Ethan, also in the conversation that I had with him at the time when I thought he was, pro-Palestinian, pro-Palestine in general. At that time, when I did give him a longer, like a lot more bandwidth to speak his mind, when he said the Jewish voice for peace could be akin to to capos. I personally thought that was an insane thing to say. And if you go back and watch, like, so much of my back and forth with Ethan could be demystified. If you go back and watch that last conversation that me and him had, it's on my YouTube page. You can go watch it. Okay? You can go watch it and you will see a lot of the conversation, a lot of the back and forth we had, we covered a broad swath of issues. Okay? And in that moment, I genuinely were like, Hasan just said that you're having Jewish people make a distinction that you're anti-Semite. Wait, what? He's right. They have a machine that's trying to separate. What the what are you saying? I walk through public hallways of that's right. Surely another existential crisis. See, I love Gabor Mate, is one of my favorite Jewish people. And then, what? When he was bombarded by people that broke my heart, you're in your own cloud. People notice that there's no way people can know how bad the problem is now. They just have to check in with Jewish people to see they're going to get a horror story. He's right. They have a machine that's trying to separate the two of us all the time in public. You're an anti-Semite, is Hasan saying. Hasan just said you're having Jewish people make a distinction, then you're an anti-Semite. Wait, what? Yeah, but you're that guy who watches streamer buddies acting like terrorists and you laugh only to come back to Holocaust and genocide back to back. Think of a mental gymnastics is unreal. What the What year did you start not liking Jewish people? 1955? This is a schism here? What the is this person saying? He called Matt Lieb anti-Semitic. Matt Lieb did Birthright. Eaton said on the YMH podcast that Birthright was brainwashing by rich Zionist Europeans. I don't know what the this guy's saying, but I think it's great that he's in here. He should say it.
So in what world is that normal? To be like, sorry, no Zionists, death to Zionists. So, you go to all these campuses, no Zionists allowed. So they're saying, are you a good Jew? Or are you a...
Yeah, it's funny that he says this. And if he were to actually critically examine the situation, or at least talk to a singular organizer on campus, he would very quickly recognize that most of those campus protests were organized by Jewish groups, like Jewish Voice for Peace, Students for Justice in Palestine. They were incredibly diverse. And there were many Jewish anti-Zionists that were leading these protests. And that's not tokenizing them or using them as a defense mechanism in the way that people cynically claim it is. It's because they also were upset with what Israel was doing. They also understand Zionism in the same way that we do, which is that at its bones, Zionism, in its current inception, in its modern iteration, in the way that it works, and some might even say certain variants of Zionism initially, are a fascist ideology. That's it. It has the same exact in-group, out-group dynamic. It is built around uplifting an ethno-religious supremacist ideology and dominating the indigenous population that Israel has sovereignty over. It's so crazy. It's not shocking that there are plenty of Holocaust survivors that have initially started off thinking, oh, sick, a homeland. This is going to be awesome. And then very quickly realize what the is up. Albert Einstein is one of the most prominent examples of this. This is actually what I talked about extensively, not only on the Cambridge speech, but I focused on this a lot more on the Oxford Union speech. And I'm very excited for it to come out. Hopefully it will eventually. But I talked about the dangers of falsely conflating the actions of Israel with Judaism. To be fair, Einstein's view when it came to Israel was way more complicated. Yeah, but as someone who fled Nazi Germany, he very quickly understood and warned the inception of the Israeli state as something that was of a fascist nature. This person says, if I write crazy shit, would you read my history of Pose? And this person responds, nah, he just ban you and get chat to turn on you. Meanwhile, he got banned last time for spamming gooner.
Bad Jew. That's the conversation. And again, I emphasize this because I don't think people appreciate it, but 90% of the world's Jews would be considered Zionist.
For the most part, Ethan didn't mention Hasan once, or vice versa, for the past year. And although Ethan decided to end leftovers, and thus end any discussion regarding Israel-Palestine, the topic did still make its way into an episode here and there. And it was still quite clear that
Guy is just resegmenting his audience to that very specific left-hating online liberal audience. Long-term, his specific pitch can't work with neocons or more anti-imperialist progressives. Maybe he pivots harder, right, in a year or two if it doesn't yield. No idea if it's thought out or organic. I think it's organic. I think people just desperately look for validation online. And I think it was a big schism when the progressive audience that he had organically cultivated from having a genuine change of heart did not agree with him at all. So he was like desperately looking for validation on the one hand, which Destiny's community gave him full throated support, love bombing his ass. So he started frequenting those that Reddit more and more. But then also he just couldn't comprehend how so many people in his audience were like against them. So he thought, oh, it must be because Hasan primed them. It must be because Hasan is the reason. These people could not have organically come to this conclusion. And because he's a very stubborn guy overall and hyper fixates on certain things and just like never gives up, I think that's my assessment. I can't know what someone's what is happening in someone's mind, but my assessment of the situation is that he just like needed to find someone that was responsible because it can't be him. At no step in this process could it be his own personal communication on the situation, making people arrive at this conclusion that he was defending Israel. Okay? Out of respect, you even now show charity. I would be so mad. There's no reason to be mad. There's nothing you can do about these sorts of situations, you know? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, he was always this like massive pro-Israel guy or whatever. Defending Israel from what exactly? Criticism? Yeah, no, I think look, for a lot of Jewish people especially, like, yeah, they see anti-Semitism rising, and if at any point do they actually associate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, and people like Dan Bilzerian play a formative role in people assuming that all people who criticize Israel are just like him, they're like Holocaust deniers or whatever, yeah, you're gonna freak the out. He's got Jewish children, you know what I mean? He doesn't want them to grow up in a anti-Semitic country, and in his mind there's a very real problem that like that is specifically happening on the boundaries of the Israeli conversation. Okay, for many other people, Jewish anti-Zionist and non-Jewish anti-Zionist alike, they're like, what the are you talking about? Like, yeah, that's real, but also, you know what else is real? Real bombs falling on people's heads. And I think that's where this conquest begins.
Ethan and Hila had some difficulty with the topic, but it wasn't until the day of our Holy Lord, September 11th, 2024, when Ethan Klein decided to go on a full-on spite-driven and seemingly Islamophobic crusade against Hasan and anyone associated with Hasan, more often than not people who are pro-Palestine. Why did he all of a sudden decide to go on this deplatforming campaign against pro-Palestinian streamers, many of whom are Arab themselves? Simple. They were promoting terrorism and simping for Osama bin Laden.
My friends, it's so good to see you again. Happy Friday to all of my beloved audience members, to my crew, to my beautiful wife, to my dogs. TGIF. I want to talk about my beef with bin Laden.
Okay. Okay.
Now, I made the brave assertion on Instagram, and again, this stems from these TikTok people who are like being like simping for bin.
They think you orchestrate every YouTube and Reddit comment. That's really funny because like I actively have avoided talking about Ethan, like even in moments, especially leading up to the election when he was like really trying to get my attention and trying to get me deplatformed. I still was like, I don't, I have more important shit to cover.
Bin Laden because he was anti-American and failed to read the rest of his manifesto.
Yeah, no, I love the holy warrior paving the path to peace. The holy anti-Soviet warrior, Osama bin Laden, paving a path to peace.
In which he said specifically, the reason I did this attack is because you're all gay Jews who aren't Muslim, it's doing Sharia law, and also you give loans. I saw this tweet, and this moment, it got even more, but I had
This is the funniest thing because, like, Wow Mao is correct. Do Americans actually know why bin Laden did all that? Or do they believe he hated that they can vote or something? And, like, it's a combination of the fact that, yes, Osama bin Laden absolutely was resentful towards the United States of America, was anti-Semitic as well, and, definitely didn't, in his personal life, I suspect, enjoy... Well, he was a hentai watcher, but he didn't enjoy, he had a Salafist approach or a fundamentalist approach. Okay, all that stuff is correct, but a big part of this concept of blowback revolves around arming and beefing up certain Saudi assets alongside the Mujahideen, only to have them continuously watch Western imperialism happen in their area and go, okay, well, I'm going to now use the training and the weapons and the access that I got being a CIA asset, and I'm going to turn it on you. Like, that's it. That's the whole entire principle behind what I was saying when I said America deserved what it deserved. Okay. Fundamentalist approach to hentai. Can't speak on his gooning habits. Just know that he had hentai in his, I believe he had hentai in his hard drive. Yeah. The irony, of course, is that the pivotal moment of my 821 America deserved conversation quite literally stemmed from Daniel Jebediah Crenshaw, okay, Texas 2nd District Congressperson, unironically telling Joe Rogan, yeah, you don't understand, Joe. They hate us because they ain't us. That's what he said. That's what tilted me into having that heated gaping moment. Okay? That was what was... And Ethan knew all of that. I've had conversations with him about that. So I'm shocked that he's taken a very different approach here. He was much more understanding of what I was saying back then.
160,000 likes, 9 million views. So there's a lot of people on Twitter who are like, yeah, this is...
He did quite literally hate Americans because they could vote and hate our freedoms.
This guy's onto something. Do Americans actually know why bin Laden did all that? Or do they believe he hated that they can vote or something? And what's interesting to me is that when I actually read his writings and learned about it, it occurred to me that, like, holy shit, that is kind of why he hates us. He did quite literally hate Americans because they could vote and had freedoms. He specifically states in his writings the reasons: homosexuality, lack of Sharia law, drug use, lending of money, and letting Jews run the country, or the world, frankly. Please read his writings before regurgitating.
Osama bin Laden did it because of burger. He was like, no burger. You put bacon in that? That is big haram. You eat burger with bacon? Big haram. We must do 9/11 now. No. Yeah. Yeah, no. He hated Americans because they could vote. Okay. I don't want to dive into the weeds of this, but I think he's misunderstanding what he was talking about in terms of Americans being able to vote. I think he was... I don't recall what he wrote in the letter to America or whatever, but I'm pretty sure the thing he wasn't saying was that the Americans have the concept of voting, and I hate that. It was more so who they were voting for that he hated. I'm not saying it's correct, and I don't agree with Osama bin Laden, but it is pretty funny. Like, he read it. I'm imagining in my mind that Ethan angrily reading Osama bin Laden's letter and just seeing the words voting and going, oh, he hates the concept of democracy. That's why he did 9/11. Like, he is a principled monarchist and just hates the mere act of voting. Oh, Jesus. This is unironically regurgitating the they hate us because our freedoms attitude that many Americans displayed at the time. The problem now is that it's 2024, which is a wild time to regurgitate this propaganda. Like, just wait for a false flag operation or something so you can just push this out. Oh.
Tinky talking points and running defense.
Yeah, he used that they were voting to justify their murder. He said that Americans deserve 9/11 because they voted the president in. Yes.
For mass murdering, homophobic, anti-Semitic piece of shit. Bin Laden, anyone trying to rewrite history.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to extend a little bit of grace to some of these people that, you know, I'm assuming have not actually taken the time to fully read his manifesto or his writings or whatever. You know, there are parts of it where he's critiquing, you know, U.S. imperialism and messing with countries in the Middle East, like you said, and it can come across as like, okay, he's making some points here, but like,
yeah, I mean, that is like he's not a good guy, okay, but yeah, why else would an American asset do this? Why else would a former American asset do this? As a part of it, that doesn't mean he's right to do it. I certainly don't think so. But it's like ridiculous to go, oh, he hates America because of the freedoms that America has. He's just like, he's not even jealous of the freedoms. He just like hates that those freedoms exist.
You have to read on. Like,
yes.
You can't just read like you can't read the back cover on this one. Like, you should.
No one is saying he wasn't insane. You have to delve a little bit deeper, like you said, and consider why he was insane. Why are Americans so afraid of this analysis? It just like bricks Americans' brains immediately. That's why.
You should delve a little bit deeper, because the further you read, the more it's like, oh, he's insane. Okay.
Coming to the conclusion that bin Laden hated us because we could vote and had some level of freedom of expression, that is the...
Responding to Bush saying that they hate our freedom, he said, if so, then let him explain to us why we don't strike, for example, Sweden. Ew. Osama bin Laden was a debate lord. Ew. Oh. Add that onto the list of why I don't with the guy. Ew. Osama been debating. Oh God. Why are we not attacking Sweden then? They are a free nation. Osama bin Laden be like, that's a straw man argument. Oh God, debate lord, hentai gooner, literally never shaves, lives in a cave. Osama bin Laden is a Redditor. Oh my God. Oh my God, he's a Redditor. doesn't with women. Okay, I'll add another one. Osama bin Laden, if he were alive today, would 100% hate female depictions. Okay? Loves hentai, hates women in video games. Oh my God, welcome back, Osman Gold. Oh, dude. Okay.
The dumbest, most white supremacist argument you can make, and is an obvious example of Islamophobia.
So the first thing I saw was this dude named Comrade Casey. Comrade Casey says, Ethan Klein has never heard of historical analysis. And I'm thinking, like, we can analyze it all we want. That's his literal words. Like, he's just like, I hate Jewish people and I want to kill people who have freedoms, who aren't following Sharia law all the time. And they're like, well, what did he really mean by that? It's obnoxious, but this isn't actually the most obnoxious. Then comes everybody's favorite, Frogan. So here I am saying, actually, Osama bin Laden bad. And her response was, this never shuts up. Oh my God.
I mean,
he really showed Frogan. He really showed Frogan. He definitely did not prove her point.
you could shut up yourself.
It was this collection of leftists on Twitter giving a correct analysis for what transpired 23 years earlier that officially marked the beginning.
Okay, to be fair, people didn't even offer any analysis. It's just like the first account is Wow Mao making a joke. And then it's like Ethan being like, no, you don't understand. They hate us for our freedoms. And then other people dunking on that take. Like, this isn't a serious back and forth. This isn't like real discourse. This is just like people getting mad. By the way, you also criticized those TikToks at the time, but Esau Hasan TikTok editor in bio and went crazy on Zoomer Wow Mao. Yeah, Zoomer Wowmow, my worst editor of all time, literally never edited a single goddamn video for me. Okay? I have never mentioned Frogan's ethnic or religious identity, but I'm always reduced to Zionist. I'm the one being racist, this festering bigotry. Let me also say I give zero about Frogan's crocodile tears. She has inserted herself in the middle of my convos. She didn't even insert herself into this convo. There is no convo happening. Like, what is the convo?
Of Ethan Klein's public hatred for socialists. Someone who a year earlier described himself as a socialist, or at least socialist adjacent, had now reached a point where he hates most socialists and thinks of them all as terrorism, simping anti-Semites.
So anyway, here's what I said.
No, I think more importantly than that, also anti-America. I do want to go back to that original point because that's the most Steven Crowder-esque take that I've ever heard from Ethan when he was like, why is nobody leaving? Why is nobody left on Twitch to contest Hasan's pro-Russia, pro-China, anti-America, terror-loving statements? And that to me is like, that is Steven Crowder like straight up. That's just literally Steven Crowder like the notion that, you know, I'm like anti-America. I'm just unconditionally anti-America. For the crime of what? Saying that like America has awesome power and could use it for good, but instead uses it for evil and unequal exchange and extraction of natural resources from the global south. Like that's not, you know, I want healthcare, man. I don't care about 800 military bases all around the planet. You know, I don't care about justifying that. Like permanent war, permanent occupation. You clearly don't watch Steven, lol, strawman, Steven Crowder. We have Steven Crowder defenders in here. Why did you block that guy? I need to see what he had to say. Saying that I'm anti-America, like saying anyone who criticizes American imperialism is like anti-America is just straight up like, it's not even just Steven Crowder. It's most right-wing reactionaries. That's the way they operate. I know this better than anyone else because guess what? I've been in their crosshairs a million times over. It's crazy to openly admit that you're a Steven Crowder fan this far into his demise, by the way. So respect. Unless I think this might be like a Diddy G guy who got lost in the sauce and thinks I'm talking about Destiny. I assume. Conrad Casey, hey, Hasan, it's me, Mr. Parasocial Hope, all is well. Yeah, all is good. Good video. Why don't you go on Tim Pool? I don't care about any of you guys, lol. What? Why would I? Wait, what? You think you think I'm doing a straw man on Steven Crowder? Like this actually is a Steven Crowder fan. What the? This is awesome. He's a Tim Pool fan as well. What am I gonna go and talk to Tim Pool about as he dances around the issue of Israel over and over again, and then says what? Ukraine is the greatest enemy of the world. America must apologize to Russia.
Why I hate most socialists. Let's take a look at Deprogram, one of the most popular socialist subreddits, and a show frequented by Hasan. These are the guys who said all Israelis are valid military targets, including babies, just by the nature of existing and being born there. So let's see what they're up to on election day.
Ethan Klein was quite public about his hatred for woke socialists, but whenever mentioning this, made sure to include that he doesn't feel that way about Hasan.
I haven't watched the whole thing. It's long as f***ing. I generally don't like watching videos like this because it's usually depressing. And it seems to have like a neutral title, but I think everybody noticed as they were watching through it, even Hasan, I think, commented on it, that this video is a little weird.
Yeah.
You had mentioned you had watched it.
Yeah, I saw the whole thing. It is biased towards Hasan, right? It's all about how you kind of screwed everything up.
Hutch, why still do the settler babies line when he knows the context? He was there. You were telling it to him originally. Who, Hutch does the settler babies line? Or are you saying Ethan still does the settler babies line? It's weird that he would like defend that a year ago, but now he's like using it. That's why I think he would most likely do the Hasan is a rich socialist that owns a house, and that's you know, I suspect that he'll like inevitably move to that point as well, because I think he was doing like the Hasan is pro-Russia as well. So he's just like slowly going down the fuck us on pipe. Like I assume that, yeah, he just wait and see what the Reddit is saying. Just wait and see what Reddit is saying. I don't care.
And pretty much the core of the video is that you became like a debate pervert who then challenged Hasan and lost.
Even Hasan was getting like frustrated watching it, and he was confused, and he's like, "This is."
No, I was frustrated with my chat because I feel like most of this subject devolves back to personal parasocial dynamics and doesn't stay on message and doesn't stay on the issue at hand. Okay? And to be fair to people in my chat at the time, I did not know the entire scope of Ethan's commentary on the issue of Israel. He hired a Ukrainian woman and brought her on stream 3 times, talk about how anti-Ukraine you are. She said you should watch Willie Mack and David Burns videos. What? I think one of the funniest things that I found out in the original Willie Mack video was that he literally, in terms of like how he was presenting me as a pro-Russia guy, he used a clip where I was actually criticizing Russia invading Ukraine and implied that I was actually saying it in a pro-Russia manner. It's just wrong. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're actively and desperately looking for any sort of clip or any sort of video that says like is good, that says like fuck us on, and you need like some additional moral justifications for it, then yeah, go ahead. But it's just sad for me to see this as a Jew because Zionism's narrative omits any Jewish figure that dared to act outside its framework. Think of influential figures like Gershom Scholem, Martin Buber, Yehuda Magnus, Arthur Rupin, R. Binyamin. Think of organizations like Brit Shalom, Ehud, and Motzben. If you have heard more than one of these, that's the point. It's art. Tina, decades of carefully crafted stories to tell everyone the most progressive of us that there is no alternative. Okay, I don't know any of these people. I'm going to be honest.
Weird.
Yeah, Hasan didn't like the video at all, from what I recall. He thought it was weird, and the more it went on, the more he kind of like disliked it.
Oh, I gotta go. I gotta finish. I'll finish this tomorrow. I gotta do the podcast. Personal news wise, I ended the broadcast. We watched a YouTube video that was really good, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's by Comrade Casey in the chat, also known as, I believe, North Star Radio. Is that what it is? Is that what his YouTube name is? I forget.
It seems to me that this guy is the exact sort of awful person Ethan was talking about that is within Hasan's community. And again, I'll say Hasan's video didn't have really any nasty comments, so I am definitely talking about people like this who are not in his comment section. So,
but Ethan,
people get so crazy going on the fuck us on rabbit hole. I've been a subscriber for 2 years now, and it literally seems like sickness or something that people get infected with. It makes sense, man. Virtually every subject matter I cover and the perspective that I offer is either something that most people have not heard of or directly hate. They've been conditioned. They've been trained into hating these naysayers. Think about it from the perspective of something that most people would agree to. Socialized medicine. There are still a ton of people who think it's bad because it's socialist, it's bad, it's communist, it's socialist, it's terrifying, it's too disruptive. Okay? And when someone comes out and is like, yeah, actually, I think we should have socialized medicine, they go, oh, f you. That's it. Like, a lot of people are trained to despise those who say, here are some of society's problems, we got to fix them.
Ethan could only keep that lie for so long.
Anyway, you are so smart and so brave. No, I mean, I'm not like looking for flowers here. I don't know why people cynically say dumb shit like this. Like, you don't come across as intelligent when you say something like this sarcastically in the chat. You come across as like smarmy and annoying. That's not what I was saying at all. Okay? Calm down.